Hey there, Yogi, and welcome to Gentle Yoga. This 45-minute class is going to focus on stretching out the body, getting a little longer, and hopefully releasing and relieving a little bit in the nervous system and balancing out the body along the way. So when you're ready, we're going to start on our backs today with your knees knocked together in our knee knock pose. And you can just offer yourself a moment to connect with the earth. Take your time. Sometimes the biggest gift we can give ourselves is just the space to be a little picky and a little particular about our posture in supportive yoga shapes. So as you bring yourself onto the earth, maybe you hug knees into your chest for a moment. Right? Maybe you find a little length in your arms, either over your head or out to your sides. There is purpose behind the inclinations that we have about the ways in which we desire to move our bodies. And what I mean by that is when you feel the urge to stretch your arms over your head, it's not just because you want, somewhere subconsciously the body is desiring a stretch. There's also releasing that occurs in the chest. There is releasing that occurs in the heart space. And when those two spaces open up, so does your breath. And when your breath opens up, guess what? Your nervous system relaxes. And you can very quickly maybe begin to yawn when you stretch, because that yawn, right, is the signal that the body is telling you that we are transitioning from a sympathetic nervous system activation, that fight or flight or, active movement in the world, sometimes overstressed, and into parasympathetic nervous system activation, the calm, the reset, the digest, the heal. And it's amazing how quickly the body, when offered support, can get into that state of being, and it's not even conscious, right? So just gonna notice, right? If you have this desire to draw your shoulder blades closer together, you can go with that. If you have this desire to draw your tailbone a little longer and flatten out your lower back, you can do that. If you'd prefer to stretch your legs long and just begin in a Shavasana shape, then you can bring yourself there. I offer it in our real life classes, but at home, the world is your oyster. There is nothing holding you to following exact instructions other than the belief, right, that you have to follow exact instructions. So from here, if you'd like, we're going to just open up the joints a bit, and then we're going to stretch into the legs before we get ourselves moving today. So if you want, you can send both arms up to the sky and maybe begin to rotate the wrist in one hand and then maybe rotating a wrist in the other. And you can kind of maybe like swim with your arms a bit in space to kind of get the wrist action happening, but also some shoulder action, right? So you could just stir, just as we will with the legs, right? Making a circular motion, tracing a circle in the sky with a hand. And then the same thing with the other hand. And again, maybe it's more of like a pedaling motion with your arms. Or just opening up the shoulders in a different way. And then if you'd like, if it feels good, you can grab opposite elbow with opposite hand. Maybe just stretch it up over your head. And I love this on the earth because you can't over rotate here. Right, so just getting enough of an opening that you can start to pull the elbows away from the shoulders. Giving yourself a slight tug. An expansion into the heart and the ribs. And again, this might produce that yawn action, and now we know why. It's that opening in the heart space. Makes way for the lungs to expand. It makes room for the nervous system to soften, to de-escalate the inner climate. And then when you're ready, you can release the arms along your sides, and you'll want them along your sides because we're going to lift a leg, and it doesn't matter which side you begin with. And then start to trace the sky with your big toe. And then, notice maybe, right, what's happening in your ankle. If it feels good and supportive for you, you can kind of bend and then straighten the knee. Yeah. That can feel interesting. And if you'd like, you can circle that whole femur bone. I like to point my toes so that it's like I'm tracing a big beach ball in the sky. Make sure to trace in both directions. It's also a nice way to start to activate your leg muscles. Ooh, and really get that core going too, depending on how low you send that leg, right? So just notice here the feeling of tracing a nice big circle in the sky. And if it serves you and it's serving you, you can continue in any of those three options for the next 3 breaths. Allowing variability between individuals is so important. Right? We can all be doing the same class, but even if we were to make the same shapes, the experience each of us would have would be different. When you're ready, you can release and switch sides. Maybe pause for a moment in between and just feel the difference. Right? You might notice that there's a lot of sensation in the leg that you just worked and moved and breathed into. And maybe, let's, again, if you'd like, you can stretch legs out to the sides or out to the edges of your mat, your arms out to your sides, and just pause for a moment and breathe. It's really seeping in all of that movement and the mobility, occurring in your legs and your tissues. And then, noticing the difference between the two sides. Maybe it's really potent, maybe it's more subtle, maybe it's not really recognizable yet. That's okay. You're ready, you can bring your right foot, the foot that you just used onto the earth, and then you can send the other leg up to the sky. And again, you can start with any kind of motion, right? Maybe a slow movement, tracing the toes in the sky, right? So finding a little tennis ball sized circle in the sky. And when you're ready, moving in the opposite direction, make sure to get both directions. Now on this side, for me, this side seems to be a little bit more tender. So the choices that I'm going to make for this side are going to be different from what I concentrated on the other side. And so that might be true for you. It might be the opposite. So just notice that and make some choices, maybe bending and straightening the knee, maybe skipping that piece. Maybe really giving yourself time in the ankle to explore that. And again, if you'd like, this tends to be a crowd favorite, you can point that toe and trace a big beach ball in the sky. Right? You know, one of those giant beach balls. Nice big one. And then make sure to switch directions. And so that you are really feeling and noticing the pace that you're moving at. And is that serving you? As we get our synovial fluid moving, that's, the joint fluid, right? The fluid that gets moving and in motion as the joints start to get in motion. So you can feel into that feeling, right, of warmth in the joints that you're working. And notice, right, if you need to make some adjustments for this side to make different movements. This is your body. You have two sides, and they're each a little different. How we use them is a little different. The most obvious way is in how we, which hand we use to write. Very often that dominant hand can lead to a dominant side, which can create these neural pathways in your brain, in your body, that create habitual movement. And so it's really important in our practice to acknowledge habitual movements and habitual tendencies and really bring balance back to the body. Let's offer just 2 more breaths in any of the options that we have on this side. And then when you're ready, just as before, you can either bring both feet onto the earth, knock the knees together, or you could stretch legs nice and long on the mat and bring your arms along your sides. And here you are releasing and relieving and now letting go anything that no longer serves. Providing spaciousness right from the beginning of practice. Right from the beginning. And as we make and create this space in the body, right, in the mind, in the thought patterns, as we begin from an emptier cup, maybe offer a moment to bring in something that you'd like to call into, that you'd like to notice in the space of this practice. It could be a feeling of joy or relief, feeling of centering, of peace. Allowing it to land in your heart and into your tissues. Maybe creating a mantra with that intention. I am peace. I am worthy. I am well. I am kind. I am supported. I am confident. Let that land in your heart and your tissues. And together we'll open with just a breath. So an inhale and an exhale. There you go. Let's bring knees, bend knees, and you can roll onto a side here. And then just pause for a moment. Let's just pause and feel. I think sometimes we can come into these transitions and we can be bracing, right? Ready to pick ourselves up. Can you soften here? Can you find a little bit more ease in the transition? In a way, so much of our lives are transitions. The events themselves are these short moments. the things we photograph, the things we write about, the things we share and remember. But most of life is the space in between events. Can we find softness and relief here? Can we be in the moment? Can we be in the transition? And then slowly come on up to a seat. And cross ankles, bring head tall. If you have a blanket or support that you can bring underneath your hips, you can bring it here. And just walk your sits bones onto it and maybe offer a moment to land here, feeling length in your spine and then also drawing belly towards spine. And inhale, let's stretch arms out to the sides and sweep hands up to the sky. Maybe on your exhale, arms release down to the earth. Flipping palms, reaching them up to the sky. If you'd like, you can add your breath here. It could be an inhale to lift and then an exhale to release. It could be the opposite. Right, so you just follow your breath if that's available to you, and if not, it's just like slow moving, swimming in the sky with your arms. And so this might be where you stay. Maybe this for you is really supporting the shoulders and opening up through those armpits and the side bodies. And if you'd like, you can join me and maybe turn to a side. Doesn't matter which side. We'll get to both. We only have two. Pressing into the ground now with that hand on the earth, get a little taller in your spine. Maybe press your sits bones into the earth. Feel the press down and a little lift up. And then maybe turn a bit more, maybe turning so that you can look over your opposite shoulder. Maybe dropping both shoulders down your back. Breathe here. If you can add your breath here, maybe bringing the breath into the low belly. And then when you're ready, and as you'd like, you can slowly crawl your way back through center. Hands on knees, maybe sending heart forward, finding a cow-like shape. And then maybe on your exhale, rounding, finding a cat-like shape, dropping chin down to chest. Again, you can move with the breath. Not required. Finding a heart opening, finding back stretching, shoulder stretching, chin drops. A few more slow motion movements. Again, it's like we're swimming through air, which with today's heat and humidity is, almost possible. Heart opens, heart holds and squeezes back. One more in each direction. Coming back through center, landing in your seat, nice and tall in the spine. Maybe sweep hands up to the sky. And if you'd like, you can join me now, twisting to the opposite side. Press into the ground. Get nice and tall in the spine, and then find a turn, a twist. Again, maybe if it's available to you, you can start to bring the breath into the low belly. One more breath cycle here. And then slowly crawl hands back to center. And let's find that cow shape. Heart opens, gaze lifts up to the sky, maybe breathing in. And then we can find that cat pose, chin dropping, gaze dropping, back rounding, maybe breathing out. Continue 3 more cycles of moving forward and rounding back. Maybe providing a little bit more space in the body. And then coming through center, finding that nice tall spine just for a moment. And then let's bring hands onto the earth. And we'll come through our tabletop shape and bring the blanket nice and wide. Spread it out. Hands and knees on the earth. Knees can come right onto that blanket. Hands pressing into the ground. And we press down, we strengthen, we press the ground away, maybe strengthening through the shoulders so you're nice and strong, maybe lifting belly up into spine, finding this strong structure in this shape. Land here and without moving too much, still staring at the earth, maybe just a couple inches in front of your fingertips. Keep pressing the ground away from you and just allow the shoulders to activate and strengthen here. And again, this is a shape, this is a yoga shape, right? When we can stay in this tabletop yoga shape. But in some ways it is also a transition. It is also an in-between because we know that we're going somewhere else. So can we be in this shape, in this transition, and just linger here for a moment? You know, what if rather than breezing through transitions and rushing through them, we can find comfort and support in those transitions. You can find some stability in the transitions. So pressing into the palm-strung shoulders now, let's send one leg back, maybe your right leg, and pressing into both hands, pressing the other foot, the top of that other foot into the ground. You can, if you'd like, lift up that extended leg, or you can keep it on the earth and just stretch the heel back. It's a delicious hamstring stretch. Whew. Totally your choice. Right? Sometimes it's nice to be more active in the shape, and sometimes to be more receptive, more stretchy. If you'd like, you can add the opposite hand. So if you'd like, you can bring yourself into a balanced table, and we'll be here for just 3 more breaths. And when you're ready, you can bring your hands and knee back down, maybe again coming through a cow pose, lifting tailbone and head and exhaling to your cat. Coming to the other side, pressing, strengthening. And again, when you're ready, you can extend opposite leg back. Stretching the heel back and finding length and space in the body. And maybe you stay in the stretch, maybe you lift the leg now. We have time here, right? So you can kind of explore a bit. And notice, right, if you're starting to feel tender in the wrist, can you bring and shift your weight more into your fingers, into the tops of the palms? Sometimes we have this tendency to land and linger in the wrists a bit. And again, if you'd like, you can choose to lift the leg. And continuing to strengthen through the core, using the strength of the belly muscles, right, to stay active and strong here. And maybe this is where you land today. And if you'd like, you can extend right arm long. Or opposite arm long and come into your balance table. Totally your choice. Again, just 3 breaths. When you're ready, you can release, inhaling through that cow. Maybe exhaling through the cat. Pressing into your palms now. Let's walk hands back to knees. Roll over toes. Lift up your hips. And let's find our way into a forward fold. You can bend knees. Maybe bring elbows onto knees for a moment and land here in this almost like a catcher's stance, right? So feet are on maybe the edges of the mat, so nice and wide. Knees are over ankles, and there's this wideness happening in the hips to stretch out the inside of the thighs. Strengthening through the thighs, that's for sure. Offering a breath or two here. And then when you're ready, hips can lift. Keep the knees bent if you can. And then as best you can, letting your head, neck, and shoulders melt to the earth. So now we're stretching through the back body. And I want you to adjust here in a way that feels supportive for you. For some of us, it can be hard to relax and release in an upside down shape. For some of us, it can be deeply nourishing. And so you can linger in here, and if it's at any time becoming too much in your body, you can always come out. You can come up to standing. You can drop back down onto your knees if you'd like. Child's pose is a great option. And if this is serving you, and if you'd like, you can, bring your feet into an appropriate wide stance that is supportive for your body. And maybe wrap your fingers around your toes. Maybe come into a halfway lift just to feel that length in the spine again. Firing up the belly for a moment, stabilizing through the lower back. And then on your exhale, lifting the hips, dropping head, neck, and shoulders down to the earth. And here, what we're looking for is a nice melting release in the head, neck, and shoulders. So again, supportive in the knees, nice and bent. Sits bones are lifting up to the sky. Head, neck, and shoulders are dropping. And if you'd like, you can bring even a hands together behind the back of your head. Or you can be more like a octopus arms and just kind of sway side to side with arms swaying with you. Whatever it's gonna, whatever kind of adjustments and articulations you can make to really relieve and find relief in the upper back and the head and the neck and the shoulders. It's interesting, as a yogi, there's times when I kind of move through certain shapes without lingering a lot. And then when I finally land there, I can feel how long it's been since I've been upside down, and finding comfort here can be a little challenging. So, just know if this is bringing up feelings or sensations here, again, you can always come out, but you can also kind of explore a bit like, where do I find that peaceful space? Can there be peace here? Sometimes that's the better question. Can there be peace in this shape? Let's give it just another 2 breaths. And then when you're ready, we'll crawl hands forward, bring knees back down onto the blanket. And if you happen to have a pillow or another blanket nearby or a bolster, you can bring that bolster underneath where your chest will go, and we'll come into a supported child's pose. So nice wide knees, heart lands on the bolster, on the support, and head lands on the bolster as well. I have my head supported by my forearms in part because it keeps my mouth closer to my microphone. But if you'd like, another great option is to just let your arms come along your sides, bring a cheek to the bolster, and really find every little bit of effort and erase it. If you have your cheek on the bolster and you'd like, you can switch directions, bringing the other cheek onto the bolster. Now, if the shape is serving you, then by all means, remain and linger here for the rest of class. Really let your hips release. And if you'd like to join me, you can. I'm going to crawl myself back up very slowly because that was delightful. Have my strap nearby, and then slowly bring knees together. Sit on to one side and find my way down onto my back. And if you have a blanket on the mat, you might want to remove it here, as we still have lots of delight left, dear Yogi. So if you'd like to join me, we're going to come into a little bit more of a leg stretch. We'll start with one side. I'm starting with my right. You can start with whichever side works best for you. And wrapping the strap around either the ball or the heel of the foot. So as long as you avoid that middle arch part. So either the ball, right, all the way up just underneath your toes, or your heel. And then crawl your hands up onto the strap so the arms can be heavy. And as best you can, you just allow your whole body to soften. There's no effort that needs to be made here. There's no effort that needs to be made here. Right, once you're in the structure of the shape, it's the softening that allows the real release, right? The opening in your body to occur. If you'd like, you can bring your hand, bring the strap into the opposite hand. And if you're using your right leg, then you would bring the leg just an inch or two across the body over towards the left. And that should give you a stretch on the outside of your hip. If you feel this in the ankle, then best to come out and just come back to where we just were, with the foot straight up to the sky. Offering the time that it takes to open this leg, knowing you might want to linger here a bit longer. By all means, you can. If you'd like, you can join me now, switching the strap into the other hand. So now the strap for my right leg up to the sky is in the right hand, and then slowly, still drawing the strap down towards my body, I'm going to start to send the right leg out to the right. And for this shape, it's helpful for me in my anatomy to extend the left leg long so that it's on the earth. And for you, you might not need to do that. You might not want to do that. And that's okay. But as your leg extends out to its side, so right leg out to the right, you should, with the foot in the strap and the strap bringing the foot back down towards the body, get a really nice stretch into the inside of the entire leg. Yeah, nice big opening here. And again, this may be something you'd like to linger in. This is one of my favorite sequences, and honestly, I could do it every day. I'm surprised I don't every day because I love it so much. So you can linger here as long as you'd like. I am going to transition us to the other side. So when you're ready, you can bring the foot back up to the sky. Maybe give that knee a squeeze, release the strap. Send the leg long and pause just for a moment. This is like magic, right? You might feel as though one leg is longer than the other, and oh my, is that nice. When you're ready, you can come to the other side, right? So bringing in that opposite knee, which for me is my left. And then wrapping the strap around either the ball or the heel of the foot and sending it up to the sky. And again, you can crawl your hands up close to the foot so that the arms can just be heavy. There's no press or pull that needs to happen. It's just gravity doing its work on your tissues and allowing this relief and release to occur. And again, this is one of those shapes where I can linger here for a really long time. We are going to transition to the next phase, which is if you have your left leg extended up to the sky, the strap will wrap around the right hand and the left leg will go across the body. Just enough till you get that stretch on the outside of the thigh, which for me is a very welcome and much needed stretch. Our hips carry a lot of tension, a lot of emotional strain and stress. And so, in all things, moderation is good and needed, especially if we're beginning to unearth some things from the hips. So when you're ready, you can come up through center and again, switch hand and strap. And now pressing the foot up to the sky, maybe send that leg out to the side. So for me, that would be left leg out to the left. And here, there is a more active need for the hand to be drawing the strap towards the body and for the foot to be pressing, right? You want to keep your leg active in this stretch. Done with some regularity. Again, not too long. If you do this on your own, not too long. But if you do this with some regularity, you will get a little taller. You may get a little taller, I should say. I did. And so when you're ready, you can bring the foot back to center. Again, I know it's really delightful. And so if you want to linger wherever you can, and squeeze that knee into the chest for a moment and then send the whole body long. Now both legs are long. Arms might be along your sides, and we're landing here on the earth. And so for you, if you'd like a little bit more support in the lower back, as we did support it in some, different movements today, one of the ways in which you can support the back is by grabbing a pillow or a bolster and placing it underneath your knees. So your whole back body is on the earth. And if this is comfortable, but you need a little bit more, heaviness, support, comfort. Again, we did just work the hips a bit. It can be nice to bring a blanket over your torso, so covering your belly and your chest, maybe your whole body, right? But if you leave it folded up, it'll be nice and heavy, and it can really pull and draw you down back into the blanket, into the earth. And that can do a lot to help the nervous system. And just relax a bit more. So as we come into our rest moment, let's begin to notice, right, what parts of you might feel a little bit more relieved. Parts of you might feel a little open. And here in this space, if you can, just as we began, maybe allow yourself to release, to let go of anything that no longer serves. Yogi, you can remain in this restorative shape as long as you'd like. Enjoy it. Soak it up. Soak it in. When you're ready to close, if you're ready to close, you can bring hands together, maybe at third eye center. And together we'll just offer a breath in and out. Namaste. Be well. I hope this practice served you, dear Yogi, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for practicing with me. You can stay exactly where you are and enjoy. Be well.